Israel is
Where did all the Jews go in the other countries?
Israel, I can tell you exactly how that happened, but like Israel is like a serial killer who is bitching about a paper cut while he's on a killing spree. That is what Israel.
When major Israeli newspapers like Haaretz publish detailed investigations into military conduct, casualty revisions, and protocol failures on October 7th, it makes front-page news in Tel Aviv. But when you turn on American cable news, those same reporting receipts vanish into thin air. American taxpayers are currently underwriting tens of billions of dollars in foreign military aid. Yet, mainstream U.S. anchors treat the most basic factual questions as completely off-limits, or worse, dismiss them as counterproductive fog of war. When comedian Bassem Youssef sat down with Chris Cuomo, he didn't just challenge the host on narrative framing. He held up a mirror to the entire American media apparatus, pointing out that Israeli journalists are routinely allowed to ask questions that U.S. newsrooms are simply too timid to touch. I'm Neel. This is the honest perspective. If a free press won't hold power accountable when billions of your tax dollars are on the line, it's not journalism. It's narrative management. Let's get into it.
Yes, I don't love the analogy because the pinky, I get it. The pinky is not a good analogy to October 7th.
Really?
And no, it's not just the
pinky.
How
many civilians were killed on October 7th?
For Israel, let's say it was 800.
373.
Let's say it was they say it was 1,400.
No. Oh, it's amazing that you mentioned the number. Because October 7th...
Well, I didn't make it up.
No. You were right. October 7th, the first number that came out was 1,400.
Right.
Then it was revised to 1,200. Then the final was 1,129. 373 of them were civilians.
Right.
56 of them were military and police. So 370. Why do you think the number came down from 1,400 to 1,129?
Because it was inaccurate.
No.
Why?
According to Israeli official, because so many bodies were so burned and so stuck together, they could not distinguish the Hamas fighters from the Israeli hostages, right? So that much fire that burns the body that much, do you think people with machine guns on motorcycle have that kind of fire? No, that was the firepower of tanks and Apache, and according to Israeli witnesses, Israel was a lot, according to a Hannibal directive, if people would like to actually look that up, Israel actually killed many of those hostages on the way out. As a matter of fact, one of the soldiers said, I saw a car running back to the borders, and I know that there were hostages, so I thought of killing everybody instead of taking them hostage. And that is so effective. You understand what this soldier said? He was like, okay, if they are dead, there's no hostages, there's no rescue effort, so now I have saved one shift. This is amazing. Basically, like their idea of not negotiating with terrorists is not have anything to negotiate about. And those pictures of cars that were incinerated and burned to a crisp, this is not the fire. And this is another thing that I want you to do, Chris, because nobody talks about this. The Hannibal directive and how Israel has messed up this has been talked about for months in Israel, and not a single American news person have talked about that. And let's talk about, okay, now, you know what? I will talk to you as an American funder.
Notice how Bassem immediately anchors his argument in official casualty revisions in Israeli media reporting. He points out that official counts were revised downward from 1,400 to 1,129 as forensic teams identified combatants and victims of extensive heavy weapons fire. When an American news anchor tries to wave off questions about military actions on October 7th by claiming it distorts reality, they are ignoring what Israeli journalists themselves have been investigating for months. Asking for factual precision isn't minimizing trauma. It is the fundamental responsibility of journalism, especially when billions in foreign military funding are involved.
My tax money funds that war. And we fund Israel for a very important thing, to keep Jewish people safe, right? We need to keep Jewish people safe. When October 7th happened, the response time was 6 hours. Now, just for people who don't know the Middle East, Israel is as big as New Jersey.
Yes.
It is that small and that horrible. And if you have a small, in a place that small, they have more military bases and airfields more than Manhattan has Starbucks.
So why do you think it was so slow?
I don't know, but like I'm telling you, I don't know if I cannot stop the war. At least as someone who financed that, I need a performance report. They took 6 hours to move in something that shouldn't take more than 5 minutes. 6 hours. Did they stop to ask for directions? Were they they're taking the scenic route?
You are suggesting that they wanted it to go on.
I don't know. I am asking you as a performer, why are we why are we not talking about the failure of that state that we finance and we pay?
Because they're in the midst of crisis. Look,
No.
When we were
in the middle of the crisis, you can evaluate the people that you are financing. 26 billion, and also
we never do that.
And also, like crisis,
we never do that.
I'm sick and tired of this, Chris.
We never do that, Bassem, just so you know.
They cannot play the victim and the oppressor in the same time. They have been crying for 8 months.
I would argue that Israel is the only place that can argue both at the same time.
No.
They are both David and Goliath. They are the strongest in the region. They are also the most hunted in the region. They are a small group of people been kicked out of all the surrounding countries. They are left in one, and they are very strong in that one.
Israel is.
Where did all the Jews go in the other countries?
Israel, I can tell you exactly how that happened, but like Israel is like a serial killer who is bitching about a paper cut while he's on a killing spree. That is what Israel is. They, the whole most hunted. You know, when Iran.
How often is a serial killer surrounded by people who want to kill him?
Really?
Look at how Cuomo handles the question of military accountability. Bassem raises a critical operational question. How does one of the most technologically advanced militaries in the world, operating in a territory roughly the size of New Jersey, take 6 hours to launch a full response? Cuomo's immediate defense is simply that they're in the midst of crisis. But as Bassem points out, when American taxpayers fund that military apparatus to the tune of $26 billion, asking for an operational performance audit isn't radical. It's basic civic oversight. Instead of pressing for answers, American television anchors routinely grant foreign military leadership a pass they would never extend to a domestic government agency.
They are surrounded by people who protected him. You know, like when Iran sent their drone attacks, where do you think the flights that actually intercept, they came from Arab countries that are friends from Israel. The biggest military power in the region is Egypt. Did you see Egypt firing a single missile towards Israel? Jordan, Saudi Arabia. Do you see? You're talking about Hezbollah and Hamas, two militant groups.
You really believe that Egypt is an ally of Israel?
It's not an enemy.
Well, that's not the same thing.
No, it's not an enemy because you're telling me everybody.
Are you my friend or you're not my enemy?
No. You're telling me they're hunted. I don't see Israel hunting. I don't see Egypt hunting Israel or Jordan hunting
not
Israel.
Not right now. They have in the past.
So basically,
and if it weren't for the United States, Israel would have taken out
I feel.
Egypt.
Well, actually, you know that Egypt takes aid from America in order for Israel's security. You understand how much Israel is costing us? And let's talk about America again for a second. You have a joint session from Congress inviting Netanyahu, a war criminal, someone with a global approval rate what's worse than Satan. And then you bring them here. While the whole world telling you this is a war criminal, this is you have people going on pilgrimages to Tel Aviv to tell Netanyahu that we're very sorry for Biden is not supporting you enough. And who are these people loyal to? Are they loyal to the United States or are they loyal to the people who pay for their elections? You have an Aipac bragging about spending $100 million and having a 98% success rate in the Congress. How is not that the main news in every single newscast? All of those comedians who think that they're tough people talking about America first, talking about making fun of everything. Isn't that enough material about talking about an effect of a foreign country in our elections?
It should all be on the table. One sad thing for me is when you start getting into money in American elections, there's so many deep pockets now because of what we have made legal. The problem in our politics, for the first time ever, is not illegal money, illegal influence.
It's legal.
Legal money and legal influence.
What makes this exchange so critical isn't just the debate between a comedian and a news anchor. It's the massive gulf between what American cable news reports and what is actively documented by investigative journalists on the ground in Israel. When Bassem mentions the Hannibal Directive, the military protocol where force is used to prevent the abduction of personnel, even at the risk of hostage lives, Chris Cuomo treats it like a fringe talking point. But inside Israel, this is a matter of documented public record. Israel's leading broadsheet, Haaretz, published a comprehensive investigation based on internal military documents and communications logs from October 7th, revealing that senior officers in the IDF's Gaza division issued explicit Hannibal operational orders across multiple sectors. Haaretz documented specific orders given at the Erez border crossing, directives issued to drone operators, and explicit instructions stating that not a single vehicle could return to Gaza. The reporting detailed that while commanders did not explicitly order direct strikes on vehicles known to hold hostages, officers were aware those vehicles likely carried captured personnel and fired anyway. Brigadier General Barak Hiram openly acknowledged ordering a tank to fire on a residential structure in Kibbutz Be'eri where Hamas fighters held 14 hostages. These are verified investigative reports published by mainstream Israeli outlets like Haaretz and Yedioth Ahronoth. Yet on American primetime television, referencing these exact investigations is routinely dismissed as speculative fog of war. Why is Israeli journalism permitted to hold its own military accountable, while American journalists act as a public relations buffer? This double standard extends directly into domestic American politics. Toward the end of the clip, Cuomo attempts to minimize dark money in elections by claiming Aipac buying political influence is no different than any other political action committee. But look at the actual FEC receipts from the 2024 primary cycle. Aipac's Super PAC, the United Democracy Project, poured over $14.5 million into a single Democratic primary in New York's 16th District to defeat Representative Jamal Bowman and dropped another $8.5 million in Missouri to unseat Representative Cori Bush. It became the most expensive primary campaign in American congressional history, funded significantly by Republican mega-donors operating through a single-issue PACs. At the same time, Aipac explicitly endorsed and funded over 100 Republican members of Congress who voted against certifying the 2020 U.S. presidential election. When dark money groups flood domestic primaries to unseat lawmakers advocating for a ceasefire or human rights accountability, cable news anchors brush it off as routine lobbying. But when college students raise concerns about foreign policy funding, those same news anchors frame it as an existential crisis. The credibility of journalism depends on one standard: truth over access. When American news networks choose to protect access to foreign and domestic power brokers rather than report verified facts, whether it's military conduct documented in Haaretz or campaign spending recorded in FEC filings, they abandon their duty to the public. If you believe that journalism should report real receipts, no matter who they make uncomfortable, subscribe to The Honest Perspective. I'm Neel. Demand real facts, follow the money, and never settle for scripted narratives. That's The Honest Perspective, and that's where I'll leave you.